Hello, this is Yogeshwar again, and I'm back with another topic. And this topic today is on Arudha Lagna. In Sanskrit, to be precise, it's called Arudha, but I'm going to be calling it Arudha just for the Western audience because they may relate to it better as Aruda. So please don't mind. So, what is Arudha Lagna? We all know about Lagna, the basic Lagna, which describes 12 zodiac signs, and the first house is called the Lagna, or the ascendant, or the rising sign. And then we have a concept of what a Chandra Lagna is, which is basically a Lagna considered from where moon is placed. And then we know a concept called Surya Lagna, which is where the sun is placed. Surya means sun, so you consider Lagna or the ascendant from where the sun is placed. So we have discussed that, and if you look at my video on Sudarshan Chakra, Sage Parashara, the great sage Parashara, has described Sudarshan Chakra, where he considers all these three Lagnas to make a correct prediction of a chart, meaning which look at the Lagna, which is the rising sign, which means the zodiac sign which was rising on the eastern horizon at the time of birth, that is the Lagna. And then he also gives importance to the Chandra Lagna, which is the moon Lagna or the moon ascendant, and the sun Lagna, which is the Surya Lagna, which is the ascendant calculated from where sun or the planet sun is placed. And he describes it through Sudarshan Chakra. So if you see my video on that, you will get a little more idea of what I'm talking about. But now you will ask me, what is this Arudha Lagna? So Arudha Lagna is kind of different. As we know that the Lagna, which is based out of the zodiac sign which is the zodiac sign which is rising in the eastern horizon at the time of birth, that is the Lagna, which is your real self, real body, so as to say, because the first house is the body. So, and then all the other zodiac signs, 12 houses rather, are considered, or we analyze the chart based on that. The moon Lagna is the Lagna where moon is placed, is actually what a person thinks of himself, because the moon is the mind. So in his mind, what he thinks about himself is better understood from the moon chart, or where the moon is placed, consider that as the Lagna, and then see all the 12 houses. So that's basically what the person thinks about himself. That's the moon chart. So once again, the main Lagna chart is his real self, what he actually is, and the moon chart is what he thinks he is. So look at where the moon is placed, consider that as the Lagna, and then look at all the 12 houses and the planets, and this is what the person thinks what he is. He may not be what he is, but this is what he thinks what he is, as compared to the Lagna chart, where that chart represents what actually he is. Now Arudha is a concept. When you draw an Arudha chart, it is basically what people think what you are. So Arudha chart is basically a chart which describes you as how people perceive you, not what you actually are, not what you actually think you are, but this is a chart which will show as you're perceived by the people whom you're in contact with. and how to find Aruda Lagna. Why I have named this video as Aruda Lagna and not Aruda chart is, it is very important to first find out what the Aruda Lagna is. So there are rules how we find out the Aruda Lagna first, and the rules are pretty simple. It is not complicated at all. Basically what you do is you look at your Lagna chart and you calculate where the Lord of the Lagna is placed. So say for example, the Lord of the Lagna is placed in the 5th house. So what you do is you calculate 5 houses ahead of where the Lord of the Lagna, or in other words Lagnesh, is placed. So once again, for example, your Lagna chart shows that you are Aquarius ascendant and Saturn is placed in the 5th house. So what you do is, since Saturn is placed in the 5th house, you go to Saturn and then you count 5 houses ahead of where the Lagnesh or Saturn is placed. So 5th is 1st, 6th is 2nd, 7th is 3rd, 8th is 4th, and 9th is 5th. So your 9th house becomes your Aruda Lagna. So it is fairly simple. Another example, say for example you are Sagittarius ascendant and the Lord of the Lagna or the Lord of the ascendant is Jupiter, and it is placed in the 2nd house. So you go to the 2nd house where Jupiter is placed and then you calculate 2 houses from the 2nd house, which becomes the 3rd house. So your 3rd house actually becomes the Aruda Lagna, and you consider that as the Lagna or the Aruda ascendant, as to say. So it's fairly simple. Another example, say for example your ascendant or your Lagna is Cancer, and the Lord of the ascendant or Lord of the ascendant of Cancer, which is Moon, is placed in the 6th house. So you go to the 6th house where Moon is placed and then you count 6 houses from there. So the 6th house becomes the 1st house, the 7th house becomes the 2nd house, the 8th house becomes the 3rd house, the 9th house becomes the 4th house, the 10th house becomes the 5th house, and the 11th house becomes the 6th house. So your 6th house in your Rashi chart becomes the Aruda Lagna, and then you draw the chart based on that. So it's pretty simple. And once again, Aruda Lagna is a Lagna chart, or Aruda chart rather, is a chart as to how the world perceives you, how they look at you. You may not be that same person, or you may not think you are that same person, which is considered from the Moon Lagna, but how the world perceives or sees you is determined from the Aruda chart. And this is how Aruda Lagna is calculated, I just told you. Now there are certain rules here. There's a slight rule here. The rule is that the Aruda Lagna cannot be in the starting Rashi, or it cannot be in the 7th from the starting Rashi. Meaning which, say for example, your Lagna is Leo and the Lord of the Lagna, Sun, is placed in Leo itself. So how do you calculate your Aruda Lagna? All you do is, since the rule is that it cannot be in the starting Rashi, you jump 10 Rashis forward. So the 10th from Leo will be considered the Aruda Lagna. Similarly, say for example, if your ascendant is Cancer and moon is placed in the fourth house. So how do you calculate Arudha Lagna? What you do is you calculate how many places is the Lagnesh, or the Lord of the Ascendant, from the Ascendant, which is 4 houses, since it's sitting in the fourth house, and then you calculate 4 houses ahead of it, meaning which fourth house moon and 4 houses ahead of it will make it the 7th house. So Arudha should be the 7th house from the Cancer ascendant, but the rule is that it cannot be in the starting Rashi, or it cannot be the 7th from the starting Rashi. So the Arudha Lagna will not be 7th from Cancer. In this case, you will jump 10 Rashis ahead, or you'll move 10 houses ahead, and that becomes your Arudha Lagna. So that's another simple 2 rules. The Arudha Lagna cannot be in the starting Rashi, or it cannot be 7th from the starting Rashi or zodiac. So if you determine an Arudha Lagna in the starting Rashi, or if you find the Arudha Lagna falling in the 7th from the starting Rashi, all you do is just jump 10 Rashis or 10 houses ahead, and that becomes your Arudha Lagna. So this is the concept of Arudha Lagna and the Arudha chart per se, and I just wanted to kind of share with you that this is a concept which is shared by the great sage Parashara, and as well as the great sage Jaimini, the 2nd generation to Parashara. And Jaimini Sutras, or Jaimini principles, have given a lot of importance to Arudha Lagna, because he has given certain rules as to what if the planets are placed in certain Rashi from the Arudha Lagna. What does that mean? What if a particular zodiac sign is in the Arudha Lagna? What does that mean? So you will see in Jaimini Sutras lots and lots and lots of combinations, and they're based on the combinations, the predictions which he has made using Arudha Lagna. So Arudha Lagna, don't just take it as a chart where you just see a chart, you draw an Arudha chart, and then you can determine as to how the world perceives you, but also you have to look at how the predictions can be made based on what the great sages Parashara and Jaimini have explained as to what happens when there's a combination of planets sitting in the Arudha chart. And like I said, the great sage Jaimini has given much more importance to it. So you'll see a lot of shlokas and a lot of sutras explaining as to what happens when there's a certain combination of planets or zodiac signs from the Arudha chart, especially with sage Jaimini. And we're going to get into more details as we move along our videos, but I just wanted to bring this concept of Arudha Lagna, and then the predictions will be made using the sutras of Jaimini and Parashara moving along our videos. Now, another thing which I wanted to bring to your attention is, now, can Arudha Lagna be made only out of the starting Rashi, which is the 1st house? No. Sage Jaimini has described 12 Arudhas. So he says that an Arudha Lagna can be found out from the starting point of the 1st house, which is the Lagna Arudha, which I just described. How do you figure out? Just see where the Lagnesh is placed, and then the same number of houses, move ahead, and if it falls into either 1st house or the 7th house, jump 10 Rashis ahead. But then Jaimini has talked about 12 Aruras. This I have just explained you right now about the Lagna Arudha, because I have told you that just take the Lagna first and see where the Lagnesh is placed. Sage Jaimini has said that there can be 12 Aruras, because you need not start calculating or counting the Rashis from the first house. You can even do it from the second house, the third house, the fourth house. Similarly, all the 12 houses. So he says that there can be 12 arudas. Aruda of the lagna, which we just discussed. But then what about the second house? And the second house, he has described that if you want to find out the aruda of the second house, it's very simple. You go to the second house, and then the lord of the second house, you have to see where the lord of the second house is placed. So count the number of signs or houses from there, and then wherever it is placed, count the same number of houses from wherever the lord of the second house is placed and go there. That becomes your dhana aruda, because the second house represents the dhana house or the house of wealth. So that becomes your aruda of the second house. And of course the same principles apply, that it cannot be at the starting point, or it cannot be seventh from the starting point. Whenever that happens, jump 10 rashis or 10 houses ahead, and that becomes your aruda. So it's fairly simple. Just like we can calculate the aruda of the first house, we can calculate the aruda of all the 12 houses. And how he has described, how the great sage Parashara has described the arudas is, first is the lagna aruda, the second is the dhana aruda, and dhana in Sanskrit means wealth. So it is the aruda of the house of wealth. So this is how you can determine how the world perceives you as far as your wealth is concerned. Similarly, the aruda of the third house is the aruda he is described as Vikrama aruda, and you can determine your younger siblings. And also it's a Parakrama aruda as well. Parakrama in English would mean your ability to go and get things. That's your Parakrama. The fourth aruda, the aruda of the fourth house is Matru aruda. Matru means mother in Sanskrit. So your mother, how the world perceives, and that the aruda of the fourth house will be appropriate to see as to how the world perceives your mother or your happiness, because it's called a sukha bhava as well. So the fourth aruda is the matru aruda or the sukha aruda or the happiness aruda. The fifth aruda is the Santana aruda. Santana in Sanskrit means children. So the fifth house is about children. So you can draw an aruda chart as far as your children is concerned, and then you'll be able to figure out in a better way as to how the world perceives your children, or you as far as your children are concerned. Sixth house is Shatru, because it's about enemies. Rogas, which is about diseases. Seventh is about your spouse. Eighth is about longevity. Ninth is about luck and dharma or religion. 10th is the karma, or what work you will be doing, how will you be known in this world, and what kind of status you will gain. So that'll be determined basically by drawing the aruda of the 10th house. And then the aruda of the 11th house will determine as to how you will look at your income, because it's a labha aruda. It's about incomes. Actually, not you can determine, but how the world perceives your income, because aruda is about the world. Similarly, I just described about the 10th aruda, which is the karma aruda, is how the world perceives your karma or your status. That can be better determined when you draw the aruda of the 10th house. And similarly, there is Aruda of the 12th house, which is the Vyaya Aruda, means expenditure, how the world perceives your expenditure. That can be determined by the Aruda of the 12th house. Also, it is also called Upapada. Upapada is actually nothing but an Aruda of the 12th house. And then Gemini has given various principles as to when planets are placed from so and so houses from the Upapada. He has described various combinations which can describe about a person's marriage. So the Aruda of the 12th house, actually, if we follow the Gemini principles, will shed some light on the marriage as well. And we'll go into details into that in our next videos. But right now, I just wanted to explain you the concept of Aruda. Do some exercise. Draw your Aruda chart based on your Lagna, which is the Lagna Aruda. And then you'll be able to determine how the world perceives you. And then draw your charts based on all the 12 houses. So make Aruda charts for all the 12 houses. And then you'll be able to see how the world perceives you related to the significations on those 12 houses. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and we'll be discussing more on Gemini principles and how he considers Aruda as far as making predictions is concerned, what he talks about as far as combinations are concerned related to Aruda. And in the meanwhile, I will recommend subscribe to my channel and check out my website. There is a link below, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.